happens in QBO part 1. So this is going to be talking about when we do something in Housecall Pro, and wow, that clicking is annoying. I don't know. There you go. That's better. It stopped. I'm good with that. So we're going to be talking about when you do something in Housecall Pro, what does that do in QuickBooks Online? How does that go over? How does that affect? And this is a very large topic because there's a lot of things that this can cover. That's why we're breaking this down into 2 parts. But there's going to also be several smaller things coming up. As y'all know, this is going to be a long-running series. We actually figured out topics all the way through February the other day. So it will be long running, and this is going to cover, these 2 parts are going to cover the basics. It's going to cover very, very basic things, not errors, not anything like that. It's the bare bones basics just to help get us introduced here. Today, we're going to be talking about when you add customers into Housecall, when you add jobs and finish jobs, invoicing your jobs, receiving payments, and bank deposits. So starting on the very, very broad end here of the everyday things that happen in Housecall Pro. Real quick as an overview of the masterclass for those that weren't here or didn't see last week's. This is going to be a long-running series where we're going to be covering issues that you bring up, covering basic integration things, covering problems that occur in Housecall Pro, covering business advice, taxes. There's going to be a lot of stuff in here. I'm sure Lily will put the schedule out here in a little bit, but it's definitely long running. And as we get further along, we're going to get more detailed. At the end of each session, we will have a Q&A to try to answer any and all questions we can, along with office hours that we're going to be hosting. And we've got a special announcement about that I'm going to save to the end because we made a slightly unusual decision on that one, but I think it'll be beneficial to everyone there. So quick introduction for me. I have been working with home service businesses since 2009. I apologize for the grainy, cheesy smile. I couldn't find a better headshot, so that's my fault. And I focus specifically on providing a technically advanced business model and advice to home service businesses through applications like Housecall Pro and other technological applications, not just, oh, let's use pen and paper, QuickBooks Desktop, or actual books for bookkeeping. We go beyond that. We try to be more advanced and give you digital things there. So that's what we're going to focus on a lot here is the digital home service business. I keep a lot of certifications. These are just a few of them. Housecall Pro, Notify, Service Titan, Jobber, SOS Inventory, a lot of the ones out there that people use, along with applications out there that you're not normally going to see there. When I got started, I decided to go out on my own because I wasn't happy with other people and how they were providing service. So I started Waterford in 2017 to provide quality service to people and thoroughly train and rigorously vet my staff members to make sure they're providing that same high-level service to you. And we really don't just focus on bookkeeping. We are working on your bookkeeping, your taxes, your business planning, communication tools, software, a bunch of different things for your business, not just, oh, here's a P&L for you, now let's file your taxes. Let's actually dive into that information and give you a better idea there. So now to get into the nitty gritty, there's going to be a lot of imagery in this one just because we want to understand everything here. So forgive me for all the images. Hopefully they're large enough for y'all to see, but I will be doing my best to explain everything. So when you add customer information in Housecall Pro, it's going to transfer into the corresponding fields in QuickBooks as best it can. So if we look at these 2 little images down here, on the left, you're going to see the Housecall Pro customer area. On the right, you're going to see the QuickBooks area. Most everything that you're going to see here, customer first name, last name, display name, email, first name, last name, display name, email, it's going to go into their corresponding fields, even phone numbers, mobile, home, work. It's going to go phone, mobile, fax here. If you add more than 3 phone numbers, it's not going to go over. So do keep that in mind. You are limited to 3 phone numbers for it to go over correctly in the system. Now, some things that won't transfer here, this job title. If you put a job title there, it's not going to transfer over. As you see, there is no job title in QuickBooks. Homeowner or business, same thing. There is no field for that in QuickBooks. Customer tags. If you put tags in Housecall Pro, whether it be on a customer or an invoice, that's not going to transfer over to QuickBooks. That is specific to Housecall Pro at this time. However, address information, street address, unit, city, zip, that's all going to go into these corresponding fields here, but only one address per customer is going to go over, unless you choose this little field down here, this customer bills to. If you go ahead and put a customer there, it's going to go ahead and click this check mark box is subclient, and then it's going to put the parent customer's name here and put in all of their billing information here, and whoever this customer's address information in the shipping address in QuickBooks. So this little field right here, which you can barely see in red, says create subcustomer. That's what creates our parent-child relationship, our subcustomer relationship in QuickBooks. One thing to keep in mind is QuickBooks allows us to do a lot of extra things. Put in tax info, whether they're not taxable or not. Put in billing terms, payment terms, set a standard language for them. This is not something that Housecall Pro integrates with at this time. This is going to be something that's only done in QuickBooks. Now, there are some benefits to doing this. We're going to cover that a little bit later on because that's diving really deep into stuff that not everyone needs. So that's going to be more of a later on topic. With that being said, though, notes, if you put in customer notes, those customer notes are going to go in between both systems there, so that you'll see them in both systems. One thing to keep in mind, though, is your customer info, just because you add a new customer in QuickBooks, will not automatically or immediately transfer to QuickBooks. So just because they're in Housecall Pro and you've added a new customer and you saved them, that does not mean they're in QuickBooks. There are certain things that you have to do first, which we're going to talk about in the next slide or two, to get that customer to go over. However, if you really want to use job costing, project costing, assign expenses, create purchase orders in QuickBooks, there is a workaround where you can push over a dummy invoice, so just a $0 invoice with nothing on it, create a dummy job, finish that job, and it will go ahead and push that customer over for you. That is my recommended method of providing everything to you and getting everything over there for you, because that's not going to start aging a customer prematurely. We don't want to start aging a customer or anything like that prematurely. We want to get the invoice to go into QuickBooks when you are actually owed for that. That's going to also go into segments, which we're going to talk about in a little bit too. Probably on a different call just because of time constraints, but we will be talking about segments and how that can benefit your QuickBooks. So that's how customers go over. And the biggest thing that I want you to take away from this is not where the information goes and what goes over and what doesn't go over, but that you can't put a new customer in QuickBooks, in Housecall Pro and immediately expect it to be in QuickBooks. If you choose to use this method that I talked about to push over an invoice early so that you are practicing correct accrual accounting, even if you're doing cash basis for taxes, accrual accounting is great to look at on a monthly basis. You would create that dummy invoice, and rather than finishing it, you could scroll down to the bottom in Housecall and you'll see this QuickBooks Online box. And in that box, there's going to be 3 dots that you really don't see here because this other box covers it up. But that's going to open up the option to push invoice payment to QBO. That will allow you, without any line items, any money, anything to push it before you finish the job. Now, this should generally not be done unless it is a $0 invoice, because if you haven't finished that job, you're not owed the money. So we don't want to record that money being owed in the books for you. When we add a job, so now we're moving from customers to jobs, nothing is initially pushed into QBO. It's the same thing as with customers. You have to physically click something right there. And some people don't like that. I personally do, because I have a ton of customers that they'll create a job and then the job gets canceled. Or the person never shows up, or something happens and that job doesn't physically occur. And since that job didn't physically occur, it's no longer in your it was never in your QuickBooks. All you have to do is cancel it or delete it in Housecall and not go to QuickBooks and delete it there too. So until that job is done, until that's finished, it's not going to push it over into your books. And this is going to help make you more accurate on your job costing and your job aging. So if you ever look at an AR, you'll see AR breakdowns there. To make it a lot easier to understand everything. If you're doing deposits though, or progress payments, like I see some of my clients do, we will want to use segments here. And segments are very, very awesome. Again, we'll probably get a little more into that on a later call. To record what is specifically owed on this date, rather than saying, oh, we're owed $10,000 for this job, and then we slowly receive payments on it, and those payments could take 6 months to get through because it's a long-term job. Say you're an HVAC contractor putting in a new HVAC system in a new build house. You'll get paid up front for some stuff. You'll get paid for the duct work. You'll get paid for the system, but you won't get your final check until that house is properly, like you've done a proper startup, which is almost at the end of the building stage of the house. And depending on the house, that can take 3 months, 6 months, even a year. So segments really help to break down those costs though. The other thing with jobs is to keep in mind that all products and services should come from your price book. So in Housecall Pro, you have a price book there, and that price book is going to be that price book there is going to be a list, something that you can set up in Housecall Pro. And that correlates with specific products and services in QuickBooks. If you are not using that price book, it does not correlate to specific products and services in QuickBooks. If it doesn't correlate to specific products and services in QuickBooks, we can't break out the income into where that income occurred. We can't make your P&L look a lot nicer. All we can do is literally just say this is how much you had in sales. A P&L can tell you so much more than that, and it should tell you so much more than that. So make sure when you're doing jobs that you are using your price book, you're not changing the name, the display name of anything, so that it goes over into your books correctly, and we can do a much better breakdown on your P&L when it comes time to review everything. If you want to make adjustments to size, like instead of a Carrier HVAC unit, you want to say it's a 16 SEER 5-ton Carrier HVAC unit. Do that in the description. The description doesn't affect that at all. You can do whatever you want in the description, unless there's a weird issue that occurred like a few weeks ago. And that's not going to affect your QuickBooks at all. That's just going to copy and paste that description into the books. Before I go on, I saw a little note here from Abby. So Abby, what I'm talking about with these temporary invoices or these dummy invoices, they're $0 invoices. There's no information on it.
Hey, James.
Yes.
Hey, real quick, would you mind reading the question from Abby so that people tuning in on Facebook can hear?
Sorry. Abby asked, when you finish the job and send the real invoice, will that be an issue with duplicate invoices? So Abby, what we're doing there is we're using a dummy invoice. It's still assigning an invoice number in Housecall, but that invoice has no information on it. Literally all it has is the customer's name and no products and services, no money, so so it's not affecting your AR. And since it's already been assigned an invoice number in Housecall Pro, and that invoice number carries over to QuickBooks, we're not going to worry about a duplicate invoice number error occurring. So that dummy invoice, as long as there's nothing on it, you'll be fine using that. Now, if you push over an invoice that has information on it, then you will run into that issue. But that's why we want to use a dummy invoice. So I'm going to keep moving on and we'll answer some more questions a little bit later. When we finish jobs, when we physically click the finish job little radial button in Housecall Pro, that's going to be the first time that anything goes over from Housecall Pro into QuickBooks. Any customers, any customer information, any invoice numbers, any line items, any descriptions, any money, anything there. Finishing the job is the first time it goes over to QuickBooks. That's why we want to keep all that accurate. And that's why we have that dummy job in case you want to have a customer go over early. When we're sending jobs over, there's certain things that go over. Information that does transfer, your products and services, which should be coming from your price book, your descriptions, whatever you put in there will transfer over. Prices, quantities of materials used, all of that will go into the corresponding fields. A message on invoice. So at the bottom in a very, very small little line there in the invoice area, you'll see an area that says message on invoice in Housecall Pro. That transfers to QuickBooks. That's something that's visible to your customer. But if you need information that you're okay with the customer seeing to go over to QuickBooks that doesn't fall into product, service, description, anything like that, you can put it in that message on invoice area. The completion date, when you click finish, that is the date that it completes in the system. So that goes over. If you put discounts on your invoice, the discounts will go over. Sales tax will go over based on the sales tax that you have in there. I'm going to cover a little bit more on that probably in a later video, because with QuickBooks' sales tax system, they've moved to what they start calling a hybrid sales tax system. So you have to be cautious with that, or else it can cause some issues there. And then if you mark an item taxable or non-taxable, that same marking will go over into QuickBooks Online for you to properly account for your sales tax. What doesn't transfer, if it's not on that central little area there with the invoice, it's not going to go over. So your private notes, your attachments, your equipment information, any audit log stuff on who scheduled the job, when it's scheduled, when they finished it, when they started the job, stuff like that, that won't transfer. That is all stuck in Housecall Pro. When we invoice a job, so you've now finished the job, now you're ready to send an invoice. If you've made any changes, any monetary changes, any description changes, anything like that, it's going to make those modifications into QuickBooks automatically for you. So you don't have to worry about QuickBooks being incorrect from Housecall, as long as you don't get a bell icon. Now, if it's originally pushed over to QuickBooks already, unless you delete it in QuickBooks, which I have seen people do, you shouldn't get a bell icon again unless it's on a payment issue. Bell icons we're going to be talking about in different videos because that's getting a little bit more detailed. We're talking about the very bare minimum basics here. If you cancel a job or you delete a job after it is finished, so you go ahead and you finish a job in Housecall Pro, and then you're like, crap, that shouldn't have been finished. So the technician went out there and they never showed up for the job, or they couldn't get into the job and they clicked finish. That's going to be in QuickBooks. And even if you delete it or cancel it in Housecall, it won't delete it from QuickBooks. So make sure that if you're canceling a job, deleting a job, and it's finished in Housecall, you also delete it from QuickBooks. Otherwise, you're not going to match up there. In QuickBooks, it also shows you when things have been sent. It's not going to show that with Housecall Pro because it's not being sent through QuickBooks's email system. They don't know when it's been sent. They don't know when it's been opened. They don't know when it's been read, anything like that. So they're not going to tell you whether it's sent or opened or read or anything like that. That's going to come solely from Housecall Pro. When you receive payments, again, any changes that you have made between finishing invoicing and receiving payments. So if you add a discount on there, or if you change a price, or if you change a description or whatever, it's going to go ahead and update again in QuickBooks when you receive that payment to keep everything accurate. One thing to be very cautious of here that gets a lot of people confused here. When you receive a payment in Housecall Pro, the date that you receive it, you can't modify that when you receive the payment. Same thing in QuickBooks. If you receive the payment today on November 19th, even though that payment came into you on October 19th, the payment date of it will be November 19th. The only way to modify that is to click the modification on the date in both QuickBooks and Housecall Pro. So it is very important to make sure that when you receive payments, you put them in there. As we talked about last week on the video there, if your techs get a payment, they should be receiving it. Whoever is making the bank deposits checks to make sure that they've received that payment, because you want to, the minute you get that payment in your hands, you want to go ahead and record it as paid so that we have an accurate date there. In Housecall, they give you the option to say what type of payment it was or how it was paid. Other, cash, check, credit card. That will transfer over as to whether it was a credit card payment, a cash payment, a check payment, and other payment, so that you see that in QuickBooks. One thing that I see a lot of people not doing, I don't understand why, other than there's not a field that says check number. Put your check numbers in the memo field in when you're receiving that payment, because that's going to go over into QuickBooks, into the reference number field, so that you can go ahead and see on the bank deposit screen the check number on that screen. I don't know how many times that has helped me, because a client sends me a notice saying, hey, check number yada, yada, yada was deposited on this date. And they actually recorded their check numbers. But then I have clients who say check number yada, yada, yada was deposited on this date. And I'm like, there are no check numbers. What invoice did that go to? Can you tell me anything? So make sure you're putting that there. Keep in mind, though, with the memo field, it is limited, not in Housecall, but in QuickBooks. So if you want something to be in QuickBooks, put it in there at the beginning of the memo field, because there's a 20-character limit. In the invoice number, Housecall Pro always puts the invoice number at the beginning of that reference number, and then whatever memo you have. So if you've got a 4-character invoice number or a 5-character invoice number, you've only got another 15 characters that can go over there. So if you start putting in that Susie paid you on this date with this check and yada, 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 all we're going to see is Susie paid. That doesn't tell us anything, because we already know it's Susie paid, because Susie is the one who made the payment and she's the one that did the job for, et cetera, et cetera. So if it's something you want in QuickBooks, put it at the beginning of that memo field. Bank deposits. We're not going to dive super deep into this. I'm going to kind of hit this very broadly here. But if you use Housecall Pro's credit card processor, so they pay through either the little swiper, tapper, slider, whatever Housecall Pro gives you to use there, or if you use the app to pay, then Housecall Pro is going to make that deposit for you automatically. They're going to select those payments. They're going to remove their processing fees, and they're going to deposit it into the bank account that you have set up in Housecall Pro under the app section in Housecall Pro. With that being said, if you delete things that are needed for that, so you change your bank account to where it's depositing, but you don't change it in Housecall Pro, it's going to stop working for you. If you delete your undeposited funds, if you delete your Housecall Pro credit card processing fees, if you delete the name of the account is blanking on me. Oh, your Housecall Pro vendor from QuickBooks, it's going to cause this to stop working. If you are going in and you are creating bank deposits because you think that you're helping the system out, you're not. It's just going to throw errors at you because it's going to say, we can't find this payment. We don't know what's going on. So make sure that you let Housecall Pro do what it's supposed to do, and don't let your accountant say, well, why do you have a Housecall Pro credit card processing fees? It should be named this instead, and change it, because that is going to cause issues. I don't know how many times I see that. It's ridiculous. Wow, I misspelled the now that I'm looking at this. If you issue a refund by credit card in Housecall Pro, that refund is not going to automatically create. Housecall Pro just has an issue with making that connection there. We're going to go over that in a later class. I think we have that scheduled for December right now, if I'm not mistaken there, because there's a lot of things that we can do there. If you want specifics, I've got videos that I've done on that if you're having that issue right now that we can do there. The other thing, and the most important thing to keep in mind here, is just because Housecall Pro does the credit card deposits does not mean they're doing the cash check and other deposits. You are still responsible for doing that through QuickBooks Online and creating a bank deposit. Don't use the bank fee to do this. We're going to talk a lot about the bank fee in a future video, because that's the devil in QuickBooks. Let's just say that, because it causes so many issues. Don't use the bank fee to create these deposits. Create them yourself by hand, because Housecall Pro is pushing everything into undeposited funds. Since everything is going into undeposited funds, you're going to have to go in and select those payments to deposit them into the bank account and batch them together, because most companies, they don't take one check to the bank. They don't take one person's cash to the bank. They end up grouping everything together, and they take 5 or 10 or 20 checks, depending on the size of the company. And if you're depositing those individually, then you're not going to have your bank register in QuickBooks match your bank statement, because your bank register is going to show 20 check deposits instead of your bank statement saying 1 deposit. Now, they're going to add up together, but they're not going to exactly match, and that's what we want to see. There's going to be several other things that we talk about with these cash check and other payments, but to get there, you go to that plus new icon in QuickBooks. In the 4th column over under other is the first option, bank deposit. You see everything there, and that's what you need to use there. That's going to keep everything accurate for you, and it's going to keep your books accurate and make it easier to reconcile. So that is what I had on topics. I kind of rushed through that since we were running late. I'm sure there's going to be some questions on that. I know Lily already sent me one. And okay. So Celia, I think we talked about this last week, if I'm remembering correctly. So Celia's asking that she's having invoices marked as paid after we finish a job in HCP. I need to clear payment in QuickBooks so I can process credit card payment. It also creates unapplied invoices, but there is no payment or credit card made yet, and it marked it as unapplied. Celia, I'm going to say the same thing we did last week. I think we need to have a one-on-one call here, because this is definitely a larger problem. From what I'm hearing here, first and foremost, there is no such thing as an unapplied invoice. There's unapplied payments, but no unapplied invoices. Invoices can only be open, overdue, or closed. That's your invoice options. An unapplied anything is going to be an unapplied payment. Rereading this today with a cleaner mind or whatever, it sounds like what might happen is you have several different things going on here with the fact of you've got credit sitting in your customer accounts in QuickBooks from unapplied payments. Those payments were received, they were overpaid, maybe they were tips. And QuickBooks is going to automatically apply whatever credits exist to a future invoice. So if you're getting tips, and if I'm remembering correctly, Celia, I think that you had a cleaning company. So it's not unusual to have tips in a cleaning company. So if you are receiving those tips and you're not getting rid of them, if you're not marking them as paid there, it's going to go ahead and leave an open balance of credit that it's going to try to apply in the future. Again, I definitely think this is something we need to talk a little more one-on-one on. But with that being said, I feel like that might be the root of your cause without looking at it. And I know we're going to be talking about tips in a future video. I'm going to go ahead and throw the tips video into Facebook for you later on, so that you can go ahead and see the tips video that we did to reconcile that if that's the issue. Or Celia, please feel free to shoot me an email. You'll see all those things again at the end here, or give me a call, and I'd be happy to talk with you there. And it'll be probably a lot more efficient there than me trying to interpret your issue through here. Abby, you are talking about T-sheets. So we have the customers in the right way. Okay, so you're just saying thank you probably for the, yeah, the dummy invoice so that everything goes over. Is that, if I'm missing something, please let me know. Lily, I'm not sure what they heard here first, but probably a lot. Al, I'd like to add multiple contacts per account company in HCP. I don't see how is that possible. How is this possible? So is this a house call question or is this a QuickBooks question, Al, just to get a better understanding? HCP question. So what you're wanting to see, and Abby, it looks like you have the exact same issue, is you want to go ahead and have bigger customers where estimates go to so-and-so, but the invoices go to someone else. Lily, you might be able to speak a little bit better on this, but if you want the invoices, the billing information to go to a specific person, you want that to be the parent account, because that's going to be whoever gets the bills in Housecall Pro and in QuickBooks. The child account, who is going to be the person that gets the on my way messages, the text messages, anything like that. Exactly what I'm saying there, Al. The on my way message, the scheduled message, all of that is going to go to the child customer. So if we go back to the image that I was showing you with customers, you had that this customer bills to field. You want to put whoever is going to receive those bills in that field, and then the contact information for the other person who you want to receive the notifications in the child field, who you're actually filling out at that time. And Lily, it looks like you put a article in there to help everyone out there, so I definitely recommend checking that out. That should definitely make this a wee bit easier there. So any other questions, guys? I think we can go ahead and move everyone to panelists so that people can actually raise their hand and maybe have a face-to-face convo. I don't know.
Yes, yeah, I will go ahead and do that. We did have one more question coming through Facebook from Gina. She said, refunds, credit card done in Housecall Pro, how does that process? So how does Housecall Pro deposit the refund?
So
go ahead, James.
So the refunds are processed. There's one of two ways that it's going to happen. And we're going to talk about how it works in QuickBooks on another video, because there's a lot of different things there that this affects, to be honest. But if you are processing credit cards through Housecall Pro and you issue a refund, instead of deducting that from your bank account, they're going to deduct that from your payout that you have. That way, they're not pulling any money out of your bank account. Now, if you're issuing a massive refund, 1,000, 2,000, whatever, and you don't have enough credit cards coming in to handle that, then they will pull money out of your bank account to handle that. When it goes over to QuickBooks, there's a specific way that we need to record it there. And we're going to hit on that on a later video. I think that's not the next one, but the one after that we're going to talk on that on, because there's a lot of different things that can happen here as to how to handle the refund. And that's a whole lesson in and of itself, because that's going to be another 30 minutes. And I don't want to keep everyone here past the hour mark, because we said 30 minutes and these have been turning into an hour. So Abby, she asked, it would be nice to have more options in a drop down or some POC. Thought there are times where we have multiple crew leaders for a company, but we can't pick who goes to. Okay. So Lily, they're looking at being able to quickly change who gets the contact. That's definitely going to be more of a Housecall Pro thing than a QuickBooks thing, because what you're talking about here, Abby, would not work with QuickBooks at all. So that's going to be a Housecall Pro specific thing. So Lily, I'm not sure if you want to address that or just make a note of it. You tell me.
Let's see. So I guess I'm a little bit confused. For a company, but we can't pick who it goes to. Maybe we can sidebar on that, Abby and Allie. With Housecall, like James explained, you've got the main point of contact as the parent, and then you can have those multiple sub-customers. The parent could be the one that it bills to. I guess I'm just having a hard time understanding. So yeah, perhaps we could sidebar.
What I'm
everyone.
I was about to say, what I'm understanding here is they've got multiple different, like they want to be able to change who gets the contact for the job quickly and easily for big commercial jobs is how I'm reading that. And Allie, reading your message right here about creating sub customers for each location, that will work. You can create multiple locations in Housecall, but that will not work with QuickBooks. So if you are using QuickBooks Online, what you're talking about here is going to cause major issues with QuickBooks. You should never add multiple addresses there. Paulo, your question about classes, they used to be connected to product and services. So you could do the connection through QuickBooks. You would go to your sales and your product and service list in QuickBooks, and you would be able to assign products and services to a specific class, and it would class track for you. A little over a year ago, QuickBooks made a change on us, which completely threw that into chaos. And so that no longer works. I know that talking with Housecall, they are working on something to get around that. The resolution that I have come up with that I use for a lot of my clients doing class tracking is we make sure that we have income accounts for each and every class, and the products and services go to those income accounts. And then at the end of the month or end of the week, however often we're looking at reports, we journal entry out of your unclassified account or your not specified class to the class that you want it in the same income account. There's a little bit more manual work that's needed there. However, this makes it a lot better for you to at least get that class tracking until we get a automatic method worked out there. So short answer to your question there about classes, Paula, is yes and no.
James, we got another one from Jamie on Facebook that says, new user here, do you have a fee schedule posted somewhere for payment processing, or is that all included in the monthly membership fee? That's a Housecall Pro type question.
Yes.
Yeah. So there is we use Stripe as our credit card processor, and there is a fee. I will post what the fee is because we offer standard processing, and then oh my gosh, I'm blanking on what it's called, but like getting your money immediately, InstaPay. So I will post that in the comments so everyone can see that, what those rates are. But they're pretty low. So they're not included in your monthly membership, however.
And to speak on that, I've worked with a lot of companies before, and Housecall Pro is very competitively priced there in their fees and everything, and they do their best to keep those as low as possible for you because their fees, their actual percentage may be higher than what you're paying right now, but all the hidden fees, they don't have hidden fees. They have a straight percentage. They don't have, oh, account maintenance fee, and oh, you went over how much you could process fee, and oh, this and oh, that, like I see with a lot of other processors out there. Lori, did you have a question? I see that you're unmuted here. Maybe not.
Man, James, I think we might be good.
Awesome.
I think we got all the questions in. You all, thank you so much. If you have questions and you're watching this Facebook Live later on, feel free to comment them or send me a personal Facebook message. James, I'm not sure if you have your Facebook messaging open for anyone to pop in and send you a message. But
yeah, it's open. Y'all can always contact me.
Yep, yeah. And then James, do you have your contact info on this presentation that you can share?
Let's move to that. So this is the contact info. If y'all need to schedule an appointment, get more help, feel free to give us a call right here. This is our main line. There'll be, damn it. What did I do? Okay. They'll be able to get you scheduled with me, at least to talk for a little bit. You can also shoot our main email, something saying, hey, we'd like an appointment, or you can go to our website, and our website will allow you to schedule appointments straight from there. So, and anyone who lives near Greenville, feel free to drop in. I mean, I have clients that do that all the time. So don't hesitate to do that, guys. I'm here to help y'all. I'm in the Facebook group all the time and want to make sure that you are as successful as you can be.
You guys, okay. Yeah, thank you so much for joining, James. That presentation was great. I learned a lot. So we will be doing a part 2 of this presentation next Thursday. Or I'm sorry, we're skipping next Thursday. Yeah, we are skipping next Thursday. So Thanksgiving, we are not meeting. Enjoy your time with your families and your friends. And then we will reconvene the next Thursday. And we'll do a part 2 of this same topic. I will be sending a follow-up email to all of you with this recording and with the schedule for the rest of our, at least what we have built out so far. So please stay tuned for that. If you attended the Zoom, you will be getting, or if you even registered for the Zoom, you will be getting that email. If you are tuning in from Facebook, just send me a Facebook message and I will include you in that email as well. Yeah, James put together an incredible schedule for the foreseeable future. So a lot of really great topics. And as we go, kind of like what James said at the beginning, we'll be building on this. He's going to go deeper and deeper and deeper. So definitely check out that schedule, and we hope you can join us for the next class.
Absolutely, guys. And any specific questions that y'all have, please ask them. And if we need more detailed time on them, we'll definitely make a video or a class specifically for that question if it is a little more in-depth there.
James, you are the bomb. Thank you.
Not a problem. Thank y'all so much. Lily, you enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes, you too. All right, y'all. Take care. Bye.